Good morning. This is VirtualPBX-admin training. Just going to give people a minute to get logged in to join us. And also make sure the audio is streaming properly. The training takes about an hour to an hour and a half, depending on load times and or if I make a mistake. We'll cover all of the dash features within the main dashboard, as well as some of the, or most of the other features that show up under the main menu icon. Here on my page, you can see our dash login page, which is at dash.virtualpbx.com. You can also get here via the VirtualPBX webpage. There's a blue bar at the top that has a login link that will take you here. Please feel free to use YouTube's chat feature to ask any questions about any feature as I go through them. And I'll try to address them at that time. If I happen to miss a question, I'm willing to go back and address the particular feature if I need to. All right, it's 10 o'clock Pacific, so let's get started. So as I said, this is our dash login page. To log in, we need 3 pieces of information: your email address, your password, and the account name, which is typically your company name. Now, this should have been emailed to you, especially if you just signed up with us, you should get an email. If someone added you to your account, it's possible you did not get an email if they did not choose the option to send that out. But in any case, if for some reason you do not have your password, right here above the sign-in bar, there's a forgot your info link. You can click on that. You still need your email address, right? That's the unique identifier. And then we need one of these two, right? We don't need both. Usually the account name is the easiest. Again, that's the company name. And then, or the phone number, which would be a customer-facing phone numbers. Then you click on reset password. This will send an email to you, right? That's why we need your email address, with the link to get you logged in. Now, that login is pretty much restricted to let you change your password. After that, it logs you back out. Takes you back to the dashboard page here. And then you log in. And the main reason it does that is to A, help you remember by muscle memory, but also you have the option to click on Remember Me. And then we'll go ahead and click on Sign In. Now, I'm using a test account, which means, and I've logged into this account many, many times. So by default, it's taking me here to the dashboard page, right? Giving me a brief rundown of my system status. Now, normally the icons here on the left, they have more information, like actual text to let you know what these are. My screen is currently a little bit squished, so I only get the icons. Now, for you, if you just signed up, for instance, or it's your first time logging in, the system will first take you to your account page. Now, I can get to my account page by clicking here on my name up here at the top right. I click here, and the main thing you would change here is your password. Right, this is where you change your own personal password. If you need to change someone else's password, you would do that under the user's icon on the left. Now, as a system admin, you also have access to the account settings over here on the left. Most common thing that's changed is the time zone, right, to put you in the correct time zone. Now, this is a test account, so it doesn't have everything that your accounts have. So for you, underneath where it says user, you would have options here for billing. Now, that's where you can see invoices, you can see your current plan, you can update the contact information. Typically, you can update your credit card, although right now I believe that feature has been disabled within the portal because there's an upgrade going on in the background. So if you need to update your credit card, you are going to need to contact either our billing team or our account services team, and they can do that with you over the phone. All right, we will close that. Oh, also that first time logging in, the dash wizard will come up, basically little pop-ups telling you what certain things are. So it will tell you what's going on here. When we close, the pop-up or the dash wizard will also come up here on the dashboard page. It will come up on the users page, which is this one here with the little person with the voice. Actually, no, sorry. The users page is the person with the desk, and also on the groups, right? The 3 people icon. Now here in the middle, we have my total users, right? So these are people on my account who make and receive calls. Most of our plans are based on a per user basis, meaning the more users you have, the higher your bill. So please be aware of that. I have total devices, 36, right? Just the kinds of devices people are using to make and receive calls. And then we have a breakdown here. First up is soft phone, right? Software application that uses your internet connection to make and receive calls, right? So it's a VoIP device. I have 15, looks like, yeah. And that includes the VirtualPBX soft phone app or any third-party soft phones you've added to the account, right? They're all just in one bucket here. Cell phone, pretty self-explanatory. The web phone, that's a specialized soft phone, right? This uses Chrome or Firefox on a computer, and then you use your internet connection to make and receive calls. Then we have the SIP phone. This is a physical piece of hardware, right? So it sits on your desk, connects via Ethernet typically, and you use your internet connection to make and receive calls. Now, VoIP, right, stands for Voice over Internet Protocol. That's the general term for phones that use your internet connection to make and receive calls. SIP is a specific subtype, right? So there are different kinds of protocols that VoIP phones use. SIP is one of those. So when you're shopping for phones, you want to make sure it's a SIP phone, and we'll go over some of the phones that are compatible with us. Down here, I have unregistered devices too, and that's in reference to those SIP phones. So 2 of them are not currently connected in some fashion. I don't know why, right? The system doesn't know why. It could be a phone isn't plugged in, right? Or someone recently moved and now they have a new ISP and now their phone isn't connecting to us, right? So there might be a network issue going on there. Right, total numbers, I have 35. These are phone numbers, right? Customer-facing phone numbers. Again, most of our plans include anywhere from 1 to 15 phone numbers, typically as part of the monthly plan price. So I'm paying an overage on a per number basis. If you just signed up, you can check that on the pricing page to see how many numbers are included and what the overage is per number. If you're on an older plan, you'd want to talk to our account services team. Then I have a breakdown here of assigned numbers and spare numbers, right? Assigned number, I'm using it, right? Someone can call that number or dial that number rather, and speak to somebody, leave a voicemail, send a fax, or join a conference, right? It's in use in some fashion. Spare numbers, still on my account, still counts towards my allotment. I'm just not currently using it, right? So if I had a special promotion running for, say, the Labor Day holiday in the US that just passed, I can take that number out of service, right? So that way, hey, I'm not going to get calls on a promotion that's no longer valid. Or for instance, I'm about to open up a new location, say in a different state, right? So different area code, I can get the number ahead of time, put it in spare, so that way, I have the number and I can start putting up, my marketing materials and get it ready for when that store opens. US toll-free, US DID, right? Now, so this other breakdown, basically the kinds of numbers, right? US toll-free is actually US Canada toll-free, 800 number, 888, all the way down to 833. US DID just means a US local number, right? So if you have a number in San Jose, California, it shows up here. Likewise, if you have one in Miami, Florida, it show up here. You can have international phone numbers if you are so inclined. If you want to add one, you're going to email our porting team at porting@virtualpbx.com. They need to know the city and country that you're interested in getting a phone number in. They will let you know if it's possible, because some countries we can't get numbers from, and if there's additional requirements in terms of documentation. Then we have conference bridges. I have 3 conference bridges. Basically, I have enabled the ability to host or moderate a conference on 3 of my users. Towards the top right here, we've got my main numbers. So these 5 phone numbers, they all behave the same way, right? They're all going to the same spot. They all have the same main greeting. Then I've got, oops, I clicked on the wrong thing. Back here. Conference number, you can have multiple conference room numbers if you want. This phone number, everyone dials to join a conference, right? Whether they're your staff members, your vendors, your clients, all calling this number. and you can have multiple. They're still going to the same set of conference rooms. Fax box number, you can have the one main fax box number, and that is your inbound fax number. The company directory, this lets you download a CSV file. It will have all your staff members, their names, their extensions, and their primary devices. The cell phone directory, this is for use with the VirtualPBX desktop soft phone application. Right? So if you're using our soft phone app on a Windows or Mac PC, you can download this file, upload it to that soft phone app, and then you'll be able to see the status or the presence of everyone else who's using the soft phone. Now, it only applies to the soft phone. It does not apply to any other devices. The store discount code, just for being a customer, you get a code to use in our online store, which is store.virtualpbx.com. And then we have the account realm, which is unique to each account. This is used in a couple things. One is to help program a third-party application or device. It's one of the 3 pieces of information you need. The other thing it's used for is for sending a fax out. So on Dash, to send a fax out, you actually don't need to log into your Dash account. You just need to use the email address that is associated with your user. You create an email like you normally do, right? So instead of sending it to cousin Bob, right, you have Bob's email address in the to field. You have the +, the number 1, area code and phone number you're faxing to, little @ symbol, and then your account realm. Then you just need to attach a PDF or TIFF, right? The system will look at the to field, the from field, and the attachment. You can only send one attachment at a time. So if you have, say, like a signature file attachment as part of your email, you want to make sure that gets removed because that can cause the fax to fail. Up here towards the top, we have caller ID. If we click on that, it's going to give us our company caller ID. This pull down, unfortunately, doesn't work on the streaming software, but you can pick any of your main numbers, right? And that becomes your default number for several different features. Then you have the option here for the company caller ID name or Cname. So this is completely optional. You don't have to do this. But in this box here, you can enter up to 15 characters, including spaces and special characters, that you want to be transmitted as part of your outbound caller ID. Next is the company emergency information, or E911, just wants a North American address. And then you click on Save Changes. When you click on Save Changes, if you filled out something here for the company caller ID name, it will be transmitted to the other carriers who support Cname. It takes them roughly 3 business days to update their servers, usually a little faster, but the 3 business days is the typical or the longest it takes. Now, some things to know about Cname. Not every carrier supports it. So if a call routes through one of those carriers, your Cname information does not reach your destination. Probably more problematic, however, is the cell phone carriers. The cell phone carriers control everything that shows up on the phones on their network, right? So they're the ones who put telemarketer or spam risk. And they typically don't bother with Cname. Now, in some cases, like my carrier, if I'm willing to pay them an extra $10 a month, I can have Cname information show up on my cell phone for every call that comes in. I personally don't find that a good value, so I've chosen not to do that. So I do get calls that come in that don't have the Cname information. That is something you can run into with this system, and that's true for any PBX system, right? The cell phone carriers basically control what shows up. Hold music. Now on Dash, you can upload your own files, your own media files. It will play back .wav, .wav, and .mp3 files. You want to make sure they're recorded in mono, not in stereo, and that they're under 1 megabyte in size. Now, you can upload a stereo file. The system will accept it. However, when you listen to it over the phone, it may not play back properly. So that's why you want to record in mono. Right, but you click on Browse to find the file on your computer. And then you click on Save Changes. Oh, up here at the top, again, you click on your name at any time to get back to that account page, right, to change your password. For most of you, to the right of your name, you'll have a Dnd toggle, a little switch you can click on. Dnd stands for Do Not Disturb. I don't have it on my user here because I'm part of an ACD queue, and those two features do not work well together. Then we got the little help icon here, little question mark. Chat with us. We'll open up a chat window, typically at the bottom right of your browser, so you can speak with a support person to walk you through a feature. Learn more. This will open up a new tab and take you to our support pages. Oops. And then Online Store opens up a new tab, takes you to store.virtualpbx.com, where you could buy things like a VoIP phone. Now, this fourth one here, web phone, that doesn't always show up. In fact, it will not show up until you've added a web phone as a device on your user. Right? So most of you start off with 3 icons here. After you've added a web phone, usually by the next time you log in, this link will be here. And then you can just click on it. It opens a new tab, takes you to webphone.virtualpbx.net. It will ask you to log in using your dash login information, and then you can use that browser to make and receive calls. Again, currently that's only supported on Chrome or Firefox on a computer. Right? Mobile versions of browsers are not supported. Next, we have the menu icon, right? 3 horizontal lines, sometimes referred to as a hamburger icon. This will take you to other dash features. Now, some of these features, like dynamic caller ID, are plan specific, meaning they're available on some plans, but not others. Most of our time will be on the dashboard, but we will touch on all these others that at least can open up properly. And then we have the log out icon here. Now, hours actually takes you to main numbers. So I'm just going to click over here on the little home icon for the main company numbers. This page sometimes takes a little bit to load, depends. So main company numbers is our first section here. You click on it to expand. You see your main numbers, right? So these are your general numbers that your customers call, unless they have a particular contact number. Down here, you notice you have 2 options. You can add from spare numbers or buy new numbers, right? Add from spare means you're reusing a number, right? So you already have it on your account. You can click on the box, click on add selected, and it would add it here. Right? Buy numbers, this means you're adding new numbers to the account. Now, your account includes at least some amount of phone numbers. So if you're under that allotment, when you click on buy numbers and complete this process, you're not charged, right? So it's just whatever the person who designed this decided to use buy instead of the word add. Just so that way it left open the possibility that you may have an increase in your bill. And I chose the wrong thing here. Let's go back here. So buy numbers, you have an option of local or toll-free. Toll-free, you choose the toll-free prefix you want to work with. You click on search. It's going to show you the available numbers in that toll-free prefix. Scroll bar here so you can scroll down to see other numbers. Any number you like, you can click add, right? Adds it to your cart, shows you the number. You can remove it if you decide to change your mind. You can add multiple numbers at once or remove them. But once you're done, you want to click on buy numbers. Now, that list of numbers that was showing here, that's a dynamic list, meaning you're technically competing with other people in real time for the phone numbers. So you don't want to start the process, right? Like click on add number and not click on buy, right? You don't, and then go like click add and then walk off and go to lunch, right? Come back like an hour later, click buy numbers. It may fail, right? Because someone may have actually taken that number while you were at lunch. So you want to complete the process all the way through. Now you see here, that's the number I just added. If I want to add a local number, similar process, but you need to know the area code. If you type one in, oops, don't know why that didn't go. There we go. Click on search. And you can sometimes, even with the toll-free prefixes, you can get this message, right? Saying, hey, there's no numbers available, right? That just means this area code is exhausted. There's no readily available phone numbers for us to get for you. Now, and this typically is for major metropolitan areas. No, and that normally means there's what's called an overlay area code, right? So basically, you have multiple area codes that cover the same geographic spot. So you click up here, go back to search. You may need to Google the area code that, for overlays, right? So like if I didn't already know, I could do a, search engine for area code 310. and it should come up with what are the overlays, or even nearby area codes, right? But I happen to know that 424 is an area overlay for 310. This is Southern California, by the way, near LA. And you can see here in the overlay area code, I have plenty of numbers to choose from. So again, same process, click add by numbers, and it would show up here. Now, for the numbers that are here, you have a little gear icon. You can click on caller ID. So you can update the Cname for this individual number. You can also turn on the ability to accept inbound Cname, right? So that way people's names show up on your staff members' phones. Click on Save Changes. Next up, we have E911. Each of your addresses, or each of your phone numbers, excuse me, can have their own individual E911 address associated with it. And the reason for that is that means for your VoIP devices, you can assign the appropriate address for that phone, right? So wherever it's actually located, you can choose the correct phone number for E911 purposes. i.e., when someone picks up their VoIP phone, they dial 911, the proper address shows up to emergency services. Prepend is a VoIP feature. This allows you to put text in front of the caller ID that shows up on your staff members' VoIP phones. Right, so call comes in from this phone number. On my staff members' VoIP phones, they're going to get the words new location and then the phone number. That lets my staff members know, oh, this is about the new store we're going to open. Now, if you don't want to use a number here, or for any place, right? You will always have the option to unassign a number. You just click on unassign. That does not remove the number from your account, right? All it does is it makes it into a spare number, i.e., so you can reuse it. All right, next up, we have office hours strategy. You have two basic options, right? The first is 24-hour open office, meaning you're open 24/7. And then the other is what's currently highlighted, which is custom office hours. If you choose custom office hours, then for each day of the week that you're open, you want to put a check mark in front of that day. And then in these boxes to the right, you want to choose your open hours in 24-hour or military time. Also down here at the bottom, you can put a check mark if you're closed for lunch, right? That means your entire system goes to lunch at the same time, or your entire staff. And then you put your lunch hours again in that, 24-hour or military time. And then any changes you make, click on Save Changes. Next up, we have office holidays. First, if you're closed for holidays, put a check mark here. And then over here to the right, click on Add Holiday. So it'll pull down. You have single day, date range, and advanced. Right? Each clicking on any one of those will create a new row. And then you simply fill out the row. So for like New Year's Day, right? So I gave it a name. I choose the month and a date. I click Save Changes. Right? Date range, like I have here for Christmas break. Give it a name, start date, end date. Now, notice that there's no year indicator. So as a precaution, we advise to not have a date range that includes New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, just to be safe. Right? That's why I have them separated out. You can have a date range that ends on New Year's Eve and then another date range that starts on New Year's Day if you want. And then advanced is like here, I have up here for Thanksgiving, right? Give it a name, choose the month. Then in the second pull down, you have first through fifth as well as last. And then in the third pull down, you have the day of the weeks, right? So third Thursday in November, we're closed for Thanksgiving. And then click on Save Changes. Incoming call handling. So for my remaining main numbers, which I believe I have 4 now, how do I want the system to handle calls during my open hours? Notice I have an after hours tab and a holidays tab, right? If I had chosen to be closed for lunch, I'd also have a lunch hours tab, which would be in between the open hours and after hours. But the options in general are the same, right? But you can choose different, you can set them up differently for each time slot. So calls come in, they're going to go to my virtual receptionist. This is a link that you can click on. It's going to open up a big old box. On my left is my main menu. This is what people press to navigate through the phone system. 1 for sales, 2 for support, that sort of thing. Right. Then over here to my right are my greetings. That's where I say thank you for calling, and I give instructions, right, in terms of what to press and where, so you can get to where. Now, so let's go back to the main menu here. We have add route. When you click on this, it creates a new row. Now the first pull down, 0 through 9, also have the star key and the default action. Second pull down is where you want that to go, right? Somewhere on your system. Now, these things have to be, in cases like of users or groups, etc., right? These things have to be created first. So this is actually one of the last things you would set up. But if you look at the pull down here, directory, smart PBX directory, that's a dial by name directory or user directory. Users means you're sending calls to a specific person, and if they don't pick up, then the call would go to that person's voicemail box. Next up, we have call queues. This is if you're making use of this particular feature. It's a call center feature, so it can be offered to multiple people. Basically, your callers can wait on hold for a while, and it goes to whoever is available. Groups, these are departments, right? Limit has more limited options for routing in terms of compared to queues, but groups are included, right? Queues are an upgrade feature, so there's a cost associated with that. But groups could ring to, again, multiple people, and then you can direct the call if no one picks up to go to a voicemail box or to a different group or to your main menu. Similar to, and you can do the same on queues. Devices means you're sending a menu option to a specific device, meaning a specific phone will ring. If that phone does not have its built-own voicemail, then that, the person calling either hangs up or gets to, waits forever. Then you can send it to voicemail boxes, right? Press the menu option to leave a message. You can also send it to a media file, right? i.e. like for hours of operation or directions. Just be aware that after the media file ends, the call ends. And then advanced call flows, which I didn't really highlight there. That's if you're making use of submenuing, right? So you want to say 1 for English, 2 for Spanish, right? So then you have those 2 menu options. You would have secondary auto attendants created for those 2 languages. So that way, like the Spanish attendant would have a Spanish greeting, and the menu options would go to your Spanish-speaking staff members. All right, so then we've got your greeting types, text-to-speech. You type in a greeting, you click update, save changes, and then the system reads off the greeting, right? It's a computerized or robotic voice. The system will name the file with a generic name. Specifically, so we're in our open hours, right, under our main menu. So when I if I type in a greeting here, it's going to save it as main open hours menu TTS. Say I call in and I listen to it. Oh I forgot Bob's, the extension for Bob. So I come back in here, I edit the greeting that's already here, right? I click update, save, and save changes. Now I'm going to have 2 files that say main open hours menu TTS. So my recommendation, if you're going to use a text-to-speech greeting, after you've saved it, you want to go to the greetings tab over on the left, find that text-to-speech greeting, and rename it to something that you can recognize. Because if for any pull-down menu where you can select a media file, you're not going to know the difference between one main open hours menu TTS and the other, right? Versus if you change it to main greeting 1, you at least know, oh, that was the first one I made versus the second one. For the text-to-speech greeting, you can use up to 250 characters, not words. It does not count spaces. So that's something to be aware of. You can upload your own file. So in the box here, you give it a name, right? Whatever you want to call it on your dashboard. Click on Choose File. Find the MP3 or .wav file on your computer or device. Record it in mono under 1 megabyte. And then click Update and then Save and Save Changes. Choose from an existing recording. So this pull down will show all your media files, whether they're a hold music like the entertainer here, or a voicemail greeting or a main greeting. right? So again, you want to have names that you can recognize easily from these pull downs. Then update, save, and save changes. You can record it over the phone. Now, by default, the system wants you to use a VoIP phone on the account. How do I know that? Because it says pick up a phone registered to this account. That's what it means when it means a VoIP phone on your account. Now, if that doesn't work for you, let's say, for instance, you just signed up with this and you ordered VoIP phones from us. Well, the VoIP phones haven't arrived because we don't have instant transmission. So, but you still want to record your greeting because you're like, hey, I want to get started and I know my customers want to hear my voice. What you would want to do is go under settings and see this one here, allow outside recording. You want to make sure it's on. What that does is means now you don't have to use a VoIP phone on the account to record a greeting. You can call in with any phone to record your greeting. You are still going to need the PIN number here that's associated. This PIN number only works during my open hours. Right? If I want to record my after hours greeting, I have to go into that menu and look for that PIN number. Right? It's only specific for that time of day. Likewise, if I wanted to change my open hours greeting, I had to call in during my open hours. So if you just signed up, if you've called your number right away, right, you'll hear a message say, the greeting for this menu has not been recorded. It will then ask you for your PIN number, right, and then walks you through recording it. Now, if you called in, if you didn't do anything, any setup, right, you didn't come here first, you try to enter the PIN number if you happen to know it, but you didn't change this, the allow outside recording, you would get an invalid entry message. Now, if you already have a greeting in place, right? So let's say you had a text-to-speech greeting at first, and then you're, okay, I want to use my voice now. Like I think I have it down how I want things to route. You can still call to your main number, right? You'll hear the text-to-speech greeting play first. You can enter in the PIN number. The system will recognize it and then walk you through recording a new greeting. When it does it in that scenario, it reuses the file name that's already there, right? So main open hours menu TTS is the greeting that's playing. You called in, you recorded a new greeting. So the content changed. So it no longer has that robotic voice, but the file name is still the same. And again, in that case, I would definitely recommend going back in and changing the name. We have professional recording services. When you click on order, this will open up a new tab to Snap Recordings. You can basically order a greeting from them. They have like 100 voice actors and actresses to choose from. Their different packages, etc. They bill you themselves if you have a credit card. Then they send you an email with the file. So then you would just upload your own file. Settings. Oops. So these first two I explained together because it's easier for me. Number of retries on missed dial. This means how many times your inbound caller can make a mistake. Right, so they automatically get one try. All right, when you click, if you choose the number of retries to 1, that means they get 2 attempts. Right, because it's a retry. Dialing timeout. This is how much time the system listens after it hears a button press. Right, because it wants to see if you're entering multiple digit extensions. So caller calls in, here's your greeting, and then they press 7. The system waits for 5 seconds in this case. It's like, oh, they meant extension 7 or menu option 7. Neither one of those exist. So then it says, okay, well now they say, oh, they get a retry. The greeting plays again. Say the inbound caller presses 7 again. System waits for another 5 seconds. And then in this case, it's going to go to my default action, which is my smart PBX directory. Right. Or if I remove the default action, it would end the call. The system would give a message, we did not recognize your entries, goodbye. Right. Allow dialing extensions, actually by default, this is on. And that just means if the person calling in enters a valid extension number, the system will transfer it. Right. If this is off, that means your inbound caller is restricted to only the menu options, right? Any extension number they enter, that isn't the system will treat that as invalid. And then to suppress the playing of the invalid entry, right? So that, sorry, we did not recognize your entry, goodbye message. If you don't want that to play, click here, to turn it on, right? So you're suppressing that message, or I guess you're turning it off. Any changes, you make sure your main menu, your greetings, or your settings, click on Save here. And then when you're back under Incoming Call Handling, click on Save Changes. So you're clicking Save twice. All right, second option, this is what's referred to as the Live Operator Answer option. The idea here is in this first pull down, you select a user, a group, a queue to offer the call to first, right? So someone has a chance to answer the call. So here we'll say John here. So call comes in, offer to John first. If John is not able to answer the call, then it goes to my virtual receptionist. And since we're still under open hours, it's that one we were just looking at. If we change it to after hours, let's do Aaron. Click on the virtual receptionist. We'll see here now I have a different menu, right? And like that would make sense, right? After hours, I'd probably have a different greeting play and probably different routing options. Third option here, the main thing is, again, you're offering it to a person or a group and then sending it to a specific voicemail box. Now, this pull down, I don't know why you would send it to directory first because it's a limited, it only offers it for 20 seconds. But you can offer to a user, again, for 20 seconds. Scroll down you can, to a call queue, get multiple people, groups, multiple people, devices, right, specific phone. Scrolling down. The voicemail boxes doesn't work, and I'm not sure why it's there. And then the media files. So you can have a particular greeting play and then send it to a voicemail box. This last option here may not show up for you, right? This only shows up if you have secondary or advanced call flows, right? Meaning our services team had something created for you for custom work, or if you have multiple auto attendants and they're available in main menu, right? So if you don't have either of those, this option would not appear. But basically, this allows you to send it to your advanced call flows or your secondary attendants. And again, if you make any changes, click on Save Changes. Your main conference number, you can have multiple, so you can add from spare or buy new if you want to have multiple conference room numbers. You also have the option here for a custom text-to-speech greeting. You click Enable, you can type in the greeting, 250 characters, not counting spaces. Click on Save, and it will play back. If you leave it disabled, even when you call this number, the system will still say welcome to the conference and prompt the caller to enter the conference room number and the PIN number. Main fax box number, you can only have the one. Right here, you can click Edit Fax Box. So first up, we got inbound notification email. You put an email address here. That email address will get an email every time a fax comes through, right? Then that person or people, depending on the email address, they'll have the date and the time and the phone numbers involved in the body of the email and a PDF attachment that they can then look at the fax. Just so you know, if someone dials your fax box number, let's say they dial it from their cell phone, right? They hear fax tones and hang up. The system will still generate an email for Bob in this case, and it'll say there was a failed fax attempt. So in that case, right, you should have the phone number. So if you recognize the phone number, then you know you can call that person, say, hey, look, there was a problem with the fax. If it's not a number you recognize, or in the email it says wireless caller, then you know that was a misdial, so you don't have to worry about it. You can also check in your call log to see calls that went to your fax box number. To fax one page, it takes at least 30 seconds. Usually about 45 is the average these days. So anything below that was a hang up. Next up is the email permissions. This is for your outbound faxing. This is designed to put your company email domain here, so that way everyone at your company can send a fax out without having to be a user on your Dash account, right? Since currently faxing is done via your email. And then click on Save Changes. All right, next up, we have your secondary auto attendance. So this is a plan-specific feature, right? Available on some plans and not on others. 2 use cases. The first I've already talked about, which is submenuing, right? One for English, 2 for Spanish. The other would be for if you have multiple businesses, right? So they have their own phone numbers, their own main greetings, but you have the same staff people answering calls for your various businesses. So then you can get them all in the same account, right? Versus having multiple accounts with us or multiple accounts with multiple vendors. Up here at the top, you click on Add Attendant. You give it a name and an extension number. The extension number is for your staff, right? You would not expect your customers to know the various extensions for your attendants. Once attendant is created, you can click on its name and you can delete it if you don't need it any longer. By default, it starts off as unavailable in main menu, meaning it's a standalone attendant, right? So it's separate business. You can click on this and it'll make it available in main menu. So now it's a menu option and some other places as well. And then you click on Save Changes. Right? Attendants can have their own phone numbers. You can add from spare or by new. You can obviously have multiple. You have the little gear icon here for the caller ID, E911, etc. The extensions tab, you can add multiple extensions if you want. If you want to change something's extension number, so like here an attendant or a user or a group, I recommend adding the new extension number first. Right? Click Save Changes, then click on the box again, and then unassign the original extension. And then we have a little wrench icon here under Settings. You see I have open hours, after hours, and holidays. This matches what we already set up under our main number, right? So your multiple businesses would have to have the same hours of operation. If you have a business, that have differing hours of operation, you definitely want to talk to our account services team. They can go over options of either doing custom build on a single account, or if it makes more sense to go through multiple accounts. But beyond that, right, you only have the option to route to the virtual receptionist. So you set up your menu options, your greetings, and your settings, and then click on Save and Save Changes. All right, next up, we have devices. This shows your devices on the account. Green down here means it is registered, meaning we can send calls to it. Right, red, right, not registered. So if a call gets offered to this person, it's not going to ring on this device. Black means you've turned it off, right? That's under this enabled column here. Up here at the top, you can click Add New Device. First up is SIP phone. That's that physical hardware phone. You have these manufacturers to choose from. If you click on it, you can see the various models that are supported. Right? Some have a lot of models, some only a few. But you find the make and model phone you're going to work with, and then you need to first give it a name. Right? I usually suggest a person's name, right? Bob's phone, or the location, like break room phone. And then you need the MAC address. This is unique to each phone. Right? Usually a sticker on the back of the phone. The phone is plugged in under its like basic settings or its status section. You should be able to find the MAC listed there. But enter the information here. Click on Create Device. Right? This box would then close. The only other thing you have to do after that is go to the User tab here and assign that device to a person. Right? So that way there's someone who can answer that call. Now, within our dashboard, that's all you need to do. However, you need to log into the phone's web user interface. You need to basically, under its auto provisioning section, tell it to go to a specific URL, right, website, so it can download its configuration file. It will grab the file. It's going to reboot a couple of times and then show up as a green device. For the specifics of for those various manufacturers, under our support pages, you want the the document called auto provisioning phones. It's going to have screenshots of those various manufacturers, the proper syntax for that URL, in some cases, some settings to double check. Cell phone and landline are basically the same, is that first you give it a name, right? Angela's phone, and then put the number. Now, main thing, +1 area code and phone number, right? So you need the +1, no dashes, no spaces, no parentheses, just +1, the number. And then you click on create device. Let's go down here. I'm going to click on the wrench icon here under edit. So here you have the device that I already added. Here's the correct format. If I click advanced and options, this is the default setup for a new cell phone or landline. Now, so call comes in, we're offering it out to your user that goes to, and you have your cell phone device on your user, right? Your cell phone starts to ring. When you pick up, by default, what you're going to hear is, this is a forwarded call. Please press 1. When you press 1, you're telling, yes, the system, you're there, and yes, you want to take this call. Right? It hears that tone, and then connects the call to you. You can speak to the customer. Now, that doesn't work in every scenario. For instance, let's say you're making use of an automated answering service to handle calls after hours. They gave you a specific phone number saying, hey, have your calls get forwarded here. You would add that device on your Dash account as either a cell phone or a landline, right? Put the name of it, +1 area code and number. But what you want to do is come under here, under advanced, and you want to put a check mark here in front of allow use of cell phone's voicemail or landline's voicemail. So when I do that, so now when we send a call to that automated answering service, right? When we hear that pickup tone, we connect the call. We're not waiting for that 1 to be pressed, and we're not even giving that message, right? Likewise, if this is your actual cell phone and this is checked and you're not able to pick up the call, right? It rings and you're driving, right? Then the caller could go to your cell phone's voicemail box, right? Some people want that, some people don't. Other thing that can come up is this one here. Keep original caller ID. By default, call comes in, gets routed to your user. Say customer Mary is calling you. On your cell phone's display, you're going to see customer Mary's phone number. Say you don't recognize it, you're tired of these extended auto warranty calls or political calls, and you just let it go to voicemail. Maybe then because you're not able to connect with Mary in time, she's moved on to one of your competitors. So what you could do is uncheck this. So now when customer Mary calls in, or anyone calls in, and call gets routed to your cell phone, instead of seeing customer Mary's phone number, you see your main number. Let's go back here to the dashboard. Right, this phone number up here that you selected, that's the phone number you see on your cell phone. So it's a way to know, oh, this is a work call right off the bat. Might be worth it to answer that call. All right, next up is soft phone. Now on the devices page, when you add a soft phone, you can only add a third-party soft phone. There's no way to change it to make use of the VirtualPBX soft phone app. Right, they have 2 different kinds of credentials. But here, if you're going to use someone else's soft phone, right, you would give it a name. You want to copy and paste the SIP username. Click on the SIP password box so you can see the SIP password, so then you can copy and paste that. And then the realm. Right? Those are the 3 pieces of information you need to program a third-party soft phone or device. Then you click on Create Device. So for these devices, for the VoIP devices, if you click on the little wrench icon, oh, actually, let's not do a web phone. Let's do a physical phone here. So SIP shows you the credentials. The audio, these are codecs. So for a physical phone, you want to make sure G711A and G711U are over here on the right. If they're not, go ahead. You would just click and drag it over to add it and then save changes. For the VirtualPBX soft phone app, you want to make use of Opus. It does the same on the web phone. External caller ID, you can set up a phone to have its own specific outbound phone number. Emergency caller ID, right? So you can have a phone number that has a specific address, and that's the address that would get transmitted if someone picks up this phone and dials 911. And then miscellaneous, only thing that ever comes up is for reprovisioning a phone. You can click this unlock button here. All right, greetings tab or manager. This shows all your media files on your account. Main greetings, voicemail greetings, hold music. You see the name, the source, right? Upload, you uploaded the file. TTS, text to speech. Recording means it was recorded over the phone. This column here lets you play back the greeting so you can listen to it to see if it's still relevant. You also have the option to download the file, whether it's because you need to save it or because for some reason the playback in your web browser didn't work. Try downloading it and see if it will just play on your device that way. The wrench icon here, click on it so you can change the name of a file to something you'll recognize, or you can get rid of it because you know you don't need it anymore. Next up, we have groups, short for ring groups or hunt groups. Up here at the top, you click on Add Group. You give it a name and an extension number. Right, it needs both of those. And then you click and drag your staff members that you want to be in the group. And then you click on Create Group. Once a group is created, you can click on the name. You can change the name whenever you want. And then you also have the group call attempts. This is how many times the system will offer the call to the members of the group. Those little arrows here to the far right. So you can increase or decrease it as you need to, and then click on Save Changes. Next up, we have the members box. You click on that. Now you see how calls are being offered to your staff members. So every call that comes into this group is going in this order, right? So David first, Aaron, Peter, Michael, Bob. Every time. Now, these are sliders, so I could adjust it. If I wanted to. Right, now this is timestamps up along the top here, right? In this box you can edit. The default amount of time is 2 minutes, 120 seconds. You can also click and drag your staff members to change the order. And then you'd want to click distribute, right? So that way Bob's back at 0 now, so he's first, right? Whereas David is now at the end. You can also set up what's referred to as blast ringing, which is, or ring all, right? So I'm ringing everybody at the same time for the same amount of time. Excuse me. Those are your routing options within a group. Nothing else more advanced or fancy. It's relatively basic. Now, your staff members, they can answer calls on cell phones, landlines, or web devices. The system won't care. If you have a person with multiple devices, a call comes to them from the group, all of their devices will ring. Right, there's a user setting, right, called a user feature called Follow Me, where you could set up, ring phone number 1 first, ring my cell phone first, then ring my VoIP phone, then ring my web phone. Calls from the group, ignore that setting completely. All of them are going to ring. And then any changes you make, click on Save Changes. Extensions, right? Groups can have extension numbers. Up here, as you can see, groups can also have their own phone number or multiple phone numbers. Now, this phone number is not a main number or auto attendant number, so it does not have hours of operation, right? So it's open 24/7. And then lastly, we have group features. First is ring back. So call comes into a group, gets sent to your group members, right? When their phones start to ring, that ringing sound is piped back to the inbound caller. That's the ring back. If you don't want that ringing sound to play, you can choose to enable this feature and then upload your own media file, right? .wav, .mp3 recorded in mono under 1 megabyte. So instead of ringing, they'll hear whatever media file you have selected here. You want to make sure your media file plays at least as long as your total ring time in the group, right? If it cuts off short, then the system treats it like that's the end of the call attempt, and then either sends it, either ends the call, sends it the next action, or gives it the second routing attempt, or third, or etc. If for some reason your staff members' phones do not ring, like let's say we get a busy tone, right? Well, that's not a ringing sound to come back, so the system will play nothing instead. So something to be aware of. Doesn't happen very often. Next up, we have next action. To me, this is the most important group feature. Click to enable, and it's what do you want to do with the call if no one answers? You have a little pull down here. You can send it to another group. You can send it to a user. You can send it to the directory. You can send it back to your main menu. You can send it to a queue, to a voicemail box, etc. Allow call forward. If you enable this, that means you're allowing your inbound call, or your staff members, to make use of call forwarding. i.e. they're not at their normal phone that they get calls on. They're at a customer site, but they still want to be able to take the group rules. Caller ID prepend. This is for your VoIP phone users. In a group, you choose to have additional text or numbers, show up as part of the caller ID. Again, to try to give your staff members a heads up about what the call might be about. Next up, we have numbers. This shows you where you're making use of your numbers. You can't assign a number here or unassign it here. You can click on the gear icon to update the caller ID, E911, and prepend. Right, but then you know where to go if you need to unassign a number. The spare numbers tab, this is where you would get rid of numbers from your account. Right, so any spare number you can remove. So pay attention to up here where it says numbers. And we will click on these three. And now you notice I have the option here to delete. It says, are you sure? I confirm the deletion. Click on continue. And now those numbers are removed from my account. So now I have less total phone numbers. So I'm probably saving a little bit of money. Port starts the port process. Just click on new port request. You give it a name. Choose local toll-free. Then you need to upload a copy of your bill within 30 days. It's going to ask you for the phone numbers you're going to port, the address associated with the account number. It will then give you the opportunity to download a blank LOA, letter of agency. Then you can upload a completed and signed LOA. There's 4 checkboxes to check, and then you click submit. After you click submit, you'll get an email saying, hey, you submitted your port request. You should get a second email by the next business day from our porting team, basically saying, yes, we have your port request. We've actually submitted it. Here's what to expect about the port process. Toll-free numbers, if everything is correct, takes about 3 to 5 business days. Local numbers average about 2 to 3 weeks. If we get an error, right, or a rejection reason, we double check to make sure there wasn't a typo somewhere on our side, or in the case of a bad address, if there's 2 addresses, like let's say you put one address on the LOA, but your copy of your bill had a different address, we'll try that second address, right? If we can't resolve it, then we let you know saying, hey, we got a rejection, here's the reason. We don't always get a lot of specific detail, right? We're going to give we'll get address mismatch. We don't necessarily get the fact that the street address was wrong or the zip code was wrong. In that instance, you would have to talk to your current carrier to find out what the correct information is, and then we could resubmit. All right, Users tab shows all your users on the account. The little gray people, these are your standard users. People with the little blue suit, these are your system admins, right? They can do all the stuff we've been talking about. Up here at the top, you click on Add User. You fill out the form, right? The main thing, the email address used to log in has to be unique for each user. You cannot reuse an email address. You create the password for the user, and then you can just determine their extension, right? You don't have to use the suggestion from the system, right? It's just saying like this system started off with extension 1000, saying the next one available is with 1022. I can type in new extension numbers if I so inclined. Now, by default, the system will create a voicemail box for the user. That voicemail box is intrinsically tied to the user. So for instance, I create the user, then I add, say, the VirtualPBX soft phone to that user. They download the app, they get their credentials, they log in. They can dial *98 from the app and then click call. That will log them into this voicemail box I created for them at the same time I created the user. The system will then walk them through creating a PIN number for their voicemail box, as well as setting up their voicemail box greeting. All right. Include in the user directory, optional. You can change your mind later. Just click on the box if you want it. Send emails to alternate address. So by default, any system email that needs to go to the user is going to go to the email address used for login, right? Voicemails, password resets, that sort of thing. If for some reason you don't want those messages to go to the email address used for login, but instead you want it to go to somewhere else, just click here, and then in this box, enter in a different email address. So now this other email address is getting all the voicemail notifications or password resets, etc. And lastly, the other one I think that's important, send credentials to the user. Put a check mark here. They will get an email letting them know they've been added to the Dash account, as well as their username and password. Create user if you only need to create one. Create user and add another if you need to add multiple. Once a user is added, you can click on their name. You can change their name if you need to. Here, you can change their credentials. Click on that so you can change their email address or their password. You can also click on the link here to send them a password reset email. Change the PIN number, changes their voicemail box PIN number. Like they forgot it. So you can just, hey, temporary. Here's your option to send to alternate address. Here's the user directory option. Over here, this pull down allows you to change a user to an admin or an admin to a user. The little clock icon here, this is your time zone for the user. I usually just search for the appropriate city, and then that way their voicemail timestamps are correct, for example. Little flag icon here is the display language for these web pages: English, French, German, or Russian. Ringing timeout by default is 20 seconds, right? Aaron has the user feature follow me enabled, so it's grayed out. But if we go to, let's go to Bob. You see here, it's not grayed out, so I can change it to what I need to be. 20 seconds, plenty of time for a landline or a VoIP phone. If you have a user who's only using a cell phone, you're going to want to change this to at least 30 seconds, maybe up to 45. Users can have multiple extension numbers if you want them to. Right? They can have their own phone number or multiple phone numbers. Again, just like for groups, this phone number is 24/7. Right? Doesn't have hours of operation. And you got the little gear icon here, so you can update E911, etc. The devices box, here you can add new devices. You can add from spare or new. The main one I want to cover is a soft phone. Here, once it loads, down here at the bottom, it says use third-party application, right? So you're adding a third-party soft phone. You can click on that to flip it. Oops. Oh, it looks like Bob's email address is already. So the VirtualPBX soft phone, you can only have one. Each email address can have one VirtualPBX soft phone associated with it. Oops. Oh. Kind of the problem with a test account. Anyhow, so if they didn't already have a soft phone associated with it, here we can. Oh, that's weird. Why didn't that show up? So without that warning message, you would just give it a name. You would click on Create Device, and then you would click on Save Changes here in the Devices box. After you click on Save Changes, an email is sent to the user. It will have their VirtualPBX soft phone username and login, right, password, which is going to be different from their Dash login. So they have at least 2 logins, as well as download links for the app. You can use the app on Android or iPhones, Windows or Mac. Oh, for the web phone, similar process, new device, click on web phone, right, give it a name, click on create device, click on save changes. The web phone uses your same login as your Dash login. Right, so in that regard, it's a little easier, but again, it's only on a PC versus the soft phone you can use on either a computer or a cell phone. Oh, for the soft phone, you can only be logged into one device at a time, right? So you don't want to be logged in on your cell phone and your computer at the same time because you may not get calls consistently. So you want to make sure you log out of one and then log into the other one. All right, user features, caller ID number. This is available for users that have their own phone number. And this phone number, or whatever phone number you select, becomes their outbound caller ID. Virtual text, this is a new feature. When you turn it on, you select the phone number. So a number assigned to the user, main number or auto attendant number. Click on Save Changes. Then the user gets an email welcoming them to virtual text. They can log into virtualtext.app website, or they can download the app itself. This too has its own login information. So you could have up to 3 logins potentially. But the main advantage of virtual text is you can share numbers between users. So you have multiple people like watching your main number for text conversations with customers. The voicemail box, this is the default settings. Transcription, I believe, is still technically a plan-specific feature. And what it is the system listens to your voicemail and then types it out in the email notification to you. Now, if someone isn't speaking into their microphone or there's lots of background noise, it's possible that the transcription is not correct. So something to be aware of. So by default, for voicemails to go to a user, we automatically send that user an email and attach an MP3 file. The body of the email is the date, the time, extension, and phone numbers involved. Then they can click on the PDF, or the MP3. Now, voicemail boxes can hold up to 100 messages. After that, they're full and cannot accept any more. So then you also have the option here to delete the message from the database after that notification has been sent out, i.e., caller leaves a voicemail, system sends out the email to the user, system deletes the voicemail box from the system. This means your user can only ever check their voicemails via email. Right? If you leave this unchecked, then they can call in over the phone and listen to their voicemails. They can see their voicemails and listen to their voicemails under the user portal, right, webpage. So leaving it unchecked is more versatile. They just have to be good about deleting their messages. And then click on Save Changes. Follow Me is for users with multiple devices. And here, let's go to So here is a standard setup here, but or not a standard setup, but a setup. So when you first enable it, it looks like this. The system wants you to tell it how are you offering calls to the devices and which devices specifically. So first you have to start by unchecking under Do Not Ring. And why are you not selecting here? There we go. All right, so when you unselect the devices, and you can choose to leave something on Do Not Ring, little green bar, you can adjust the time up here. Total time is 120 seconds. You can change that down to say 60. You can click distribute. Just like in ring groups, right? You can change the order and then click on save changes. Fax box, you can choose to have users have their own fax box if you want them to. If you choose this route, I do recommend you either use a spare number or buy a new phone number. That way the user can send and receive faxes. There's a third option here for assigning a new extension. That means the user can receive faxes, but they're not going to be able to send out, right? The system is going to use the fax box parameters as part of the process to send out. So when it sees a user with a fax box, it says, oh, what phone number do I use for caller ID? It selects the phone number or the extension that you've assigned to the fax box. Extensions are typically shorter than a phone number. That means the call would fail. The other downside about having an extension is you might limit who can actually send a fax to this user, right? So for your analog fax machines, it's easier, right? They can call your main number, hear the greeting, enter the fax extension number, and then click send, right? Or even on some fax machines, right? You can enter phone number like comma, or pound, and then the extension number. And that tells the fax machine, dial this number, wait a couple seconds, then hit this extension number, then transmit. Your electronic fax services, however, they may not be able to may not support sending faxes to an extension. Or if they do, they might charge you extra. Conference bridge. As an admin, when you click enable, the only thing you have to do is enter a PIN number here and click save changes. The video conferencing, that's only for your Dash users, right? Anyone outside will not be able to make use of it. And then you click on save changes. Your users will be able to adjust their conference bridge features via the user portal. Call forwarding. Off, on, or failover mode. Off or on, your users can enable themselves, either from their VoIP phones or via the user portal. Failover mode, you have to set up for them, and that's what that is if their VoIP phone becomes unregistered, the call comes into the user. If you have failover mode enabled and set up properly, the system will automatically forward the call to the phone number you designate here. And so that way your staff is still getting calls, instead of calls going to voicemail. And then when they have time, they can go back and find out what's wrong with their primary device. Customize call recording. So when you first enable it, it looks like this. You have to tell the system what kind of calls you're going to record. Inbound internal, coworker call, right? Coworker Bob called me. Inbound external, customer Mary called me. Outbound external, I called coworker Bob. Outbound external, I called customer Mary. Every account includes some amount of storage as part of your monthly plan price. If you're recording every call and you have heavy call volume, you're going to want to look at the AWS integration option and have an AWS account. So that way you can store your call recordings there, because over the long haul, it's going to be cheaper. For the specifics for your account, you're going to want to talk to our account services team in terms of how much storage you have and what the overage is. Music on hold. Users can have their own hold music if you want them to. You just click enable. Either find a file on your system already, right, from the pull down here, or you click upload .wav.mp3 recorded in mono under 1 megabyte, and then save changes. Do not disturb means calls would go to voicemail. And then hot desking, another VoIP feature. You set up hot desk ID number, 4 digits. So if you're making use of 4-digit extensions, I recommend just putting in their extension number in, and then you click save changes. So what this does is it's for like a shared office environment or hybrid scheduling. where, say, I come into the office on Tuesday, I sit down on desk number 2, I pick up the VoIP phone, I hit *11. That turns hot desking on that phone. It's going to ask me for my hot desk ID. It will then tell me call will now be sent to this device. So that way, anyone who's calling my user ends up ringing at the phone I'm sitting at, right? End of my day, I pick up the handset, I hit *12 to turn off hot desking, I go home. Next time I come into the office, Angela's sitting at desk number 2, I say good morning, I walk over and sit at desk number 11, same thing, right? Pick up the phone, *11, enter hot desk ID, now calls are coming to me at desk number 11. All right, Greetings Manager shows all your greetings on the account. I'm sorry, this is the Voicemail Manager. Voicemail boxes. So voicemail boxes, if they have a name here in this third column, that means it was a user-created voicemail box, right? Created at the same time the user was. If they don't, that means it was a system-created voicemail box in case of the main voicemail box, or it was one of the voicemail boxes you created. If you're at the top, click on Add Voicemail Box, give it a name, a voicemail box number, and a PIN number. Click on Create a Voicemail Box. Now, for any voicemail box, you can click on this wrench icon here under Edit, go to Advanced, Greeting Media. Here, you can upload a new voicemail greeting for the voicemail box, or choose from one that's already on the system. The temporary file is for the out of office or vacation email, right? Or voicemail message. So if something is selected in temporary, it plays, right? It supersedes the media file. Once you put temporary back to none, then the media file will play. Again, you can upload .wav, .mp3, recorded in mono under 1 megabyte. Recipients. So your user voicemail boxes already have the built-in recipient. For any voicemail box you create yourself, you're going to want to add a recipient by clicking here where it says Add New Recipient. Put email address. If you only need to add one, then you can just click on Save Changes. If you need to add multiple, click on Add and keep adding email addresses until you're done. And then we go to Options. So once a voicemail box has a media file and has a recipient, then under Options here, you can check the box in front of Already Set Up. Here you have the option to delete after notification, and again, by default, the attached message to the email is already checked. Advanced routing, this is where direct inward system access is, or DISA. What DISA does is allows you to call into your system, right? Goes to a virtual receptionist or auto attendant, and then you can log in over the phone. And when you do that, you'll hear dial tone, so then you can make an outbound call from, say, your cell phone or landline, but instead of your cell phone number showing up as a caller ID, it's your main number. Now, this feature is not enabled on new accounts that sign up. It's something you have to talk to our account services team first. But once it's enabled, it will show up here. You would click Enable. And then you'll see here, by default, the system assigns a PIN number. If you leave it like this, that means you need to make DISA a menu option. Right? It's one of the advanced call flows. So that means you can call into your main number, press say menu option 9. Then the system will ask you for the PIN number. You'll hear dial tone. You can make an outbound call. That's not recommended because someone might have accidentally hit menu option 9, hear that, enter the PIN number, take that as a challenge, and try to figure it out, right? Then once they hear dial tone, they're like, oh, let me try making an outbound call. Now they're making outbound calls on your account. So if you click here under Edit Settings, what we recommend is you can change the PIN number. It's not, the system randomly generates the PIN number. It's different every time, so you don't have to worry about that too much. But click here under Add Extension and give it an extension number that's not part of your normal sequence, right? So this system started with extension 1000. I would not want to use extension 1022, right? Too easy for someone to figure out. I would just create a new sequence and then click on Save Changes. So now when I dial into my system, I enter in this random extension number I just created. Then I enter the PIN number. Then I can make an outbound call, right? So it's just an extra layer of security. Now, in terms of the outbound caller ID, right? If we go back to the dashboard, right? It's this phone number right here that's selected, not your cell phone number. All right. Now, one way to know if someone's making calls on your account is under the call logs. You have today, this week, and this month. Each of these you can download as a CSV file. So if you're good with spreadsheets, you can gain a lot more data about what's going on with your system. Call, green arrow to the right means an inbound call came into the system. And you can see if it went to someone. The yellow arrow to the left, that's an outbound call. And trying to see if I can find a call that actually was offered to a device. So normally when a call comes in, it's offered to a device, you'll see additional rows for each device it's offered to. Normal clearing is what you want to see because that means a call ended normally. You can click on the little fire hydrant icon here to report a call. This creates an email for you to support@virtualpbx.com. It will have the technical details. Please enter the context or why you're sending this email to us. Right? Just looking at it, we may not be able to tell what happened or why you're sending it to us. That could be like my phone didn't actually ring, or the call audio was bad, or what have you. And then we've got the feature codes here at the bottom. Oh, oops, one thing about the call logs. Custom, you can set your own date range. The system will let you go back up to 1 year, right, 12 months. After that, you'd have to contact our support team. We can escalate it up to our engineers. They can go back up to 18 months, right? After that, though, the call data is not available. So if you need your call data for compliance reasons, for example, I would suggest doing this every month. Right? Go here, go to custom, set the date range, download the file, and that way you have it on your local system. All right, and then we have feature codes. I've talked about a couple of these. These are ways for your VoIP phone users to access Dash features directly from their VoIP phone. Right? They're like keyboard shortcuts on a computer. So this has a brief explanation of what they do. Click on the little or mouse over the question mark icon to get a better idea. This information is also a web page on our support pages. There's also a document called the Phone Commands Cheat Sheet, which has a little bit more context about how to use it. All right, that's the dashboard. Let's go up to next up is Blacklists. Blacklists is an included feature. This allows you to create a list of phone numbers that you are blocking from reaching your system. All right, you would click Edit Blacklists over here to the right. You click Add to create a new list, otherwise, or you can just click on an existing list. You need to give it a name. Are you blocked and anonymous? That means if we're not getting valid inbound caller ID and you turn this on, right, now that call can't come through, right? They're going to get busy tone. Beyond that, you click here where it says Add Number. Put +1 area code and phone number, the number you want to block, right? No parentheses, no spaces, no dashes. Keep clicking Add until you're done. Once you're done, you click on Save. Click on Back to Settings at the top right, and make sure your lists are on the right-hand side under Selected, and then click Update. Now, every phone number on these 3 lists, if they try to call into my system here, they get a busy tone, right? They're not getting through. They're not wasting my time, not wasting my minutes, etc. The Fax Manager, included on every system. This allows you to see your inbound and outbound faxes on your various fax boxes. I don't know if I have anyone who has a fax that came in recently. This system only keeps it on for like 30 days. Yeah, so unfortunately I don't have one here, but you would see the date, the time, the phone numbers involved, the pages. You can download the pages, you could, so you can view it. You could also delete it from your system. Outbound faxes, similar idea, where you would see the history of the various fax boxes. Here you see a couple of successful outbound faxes. So date, the time, phone numbers involved, number of pages. If you see a failure here under the outbound fax tab, that means we had a problem communicating with the other phone number. Now, that could be because the number was busy, right? That could be you actually, accidentally typed in the wrong number. So something to be aware of. In the email to fax logs, if you see anything here, that means the system had a problem processing the request. So like you would see a thumbs down, who it came from, who it went to, the date, and the details. Under details, there's a little eyeball icon. You can click on that. It will give you a new pop-up, and it will give the error reasons in that. And like the most common we see is no valid attachment, meaning someone either forgot an attachment or they attached something that was not a PDF or TIFF, like a JPEG. You can also have like person use the wrong email address, right? Use their personal email address instead of the work email address. Number Manager takes you back to your spare numbers tab. Reports actually won't show up here. This is a plan-specific feature. This will open up a new tab and take you to reports.virtualpbx.com, which has its own login. This allows you to create your own reports about the call activity. If you go to our YouTube channel, under videos, or do a search for advanced reporting demo, advanced reports demo, excuse me, and our team created a video about how to make use of it and just some samples of what can be done. If you're interested in adding this to your account, you want to talk to our services team. Voicemails, this goes to your voicemail manager, so you can get to any voicemail box on the account and see their voicemail messages if they have them. You can play them back, you can listen to them, you can reassign them to a different voicemail box if you need to. All right, next up we go to ACD queues. ACD stands for Automatic Call Distribution. It's a call center feature. There are two kinds of queues available. What you see here are the standard ACD queues. We also have ACD queues Pro. Unfortunately, accounts can only have one or the other. They cannot have both, so I can only show you one. However, on the YouTube channel, again under videos, you're looking for the ACD queues Pro demo. It's going to show you what those queues can do versus these. So first up, you would click on Add New Queue right here at the top. No, that's not working. I'm just going to click on the gear icon here for an existing queue. You give it a name, and then you choose if this queue has either an extension number or a phone number. Right, can have one or the other, not both. Then under configuration, you have the queue routing strategy. Your options include round robin, which will equalize out over time, least calls, meaning the least amount of connected calls, least offers, which is the least amount of offered calls, both connected and missed, and most idle, right? Whoever's been waiting for the longest gets the next call that comes in. Then you have the option for hold treatment. You can upload your own file, .wav, .mp3, recorded in mono. If for the queues, you can upload a 5 megabyte file and it will play back. The queue timeout measured in seconds is how much time your inbound callers can wait on hold. Right, so 3,600 seconds. The queue call limit is how many of your inbound how many people can wait on hold. Now, I have it set to 4. That means I can have 4 people wait on hold on top of whoever's already speaking to my staff members. If I set this to 0, that means there's no limit. Timeout immediately if empty. This means if I have no staff members logged in and a call comes into the queue, it treats that call as if it hits that 3,600 seconds. The escalation call flow after timeout. After that 3,600 seconds, what do you want the system to do with the call? Here's a pull down. You can send it to queues. You can send it or to different queue groups, back to your main menu, voicemail box, a user, etc. The zero out to call flow. This, if you select something in the pull down, this lets your inbound caller press 0 while they're waiting on hold. When they do so, they go to wherever you selected, right? Voicemail box, user, group, etc. Agent recovery time, measured in seconds. This is how much time after an agent is done with a call that they're given before the system will offer them a second call from the queue. Right. So in this case, say Bob finishes a queue call, it ends, he's given 15 seconds before he's offered another call from the queue. Force on reject or missed. If this is enabled, that means if your users miss a call, right, the system will automatically put them in away mode. So they have to put themselves in ready to accept calls again. And then agent connect timeout measured in seconds. The default is 20. By default, queues are designed to be working with VoIP phones. So that's why 20 seconds is enough. If I believe we've actually allowed cell phones and landlines to be used. So you might want to increase it if that's the case, if you're making use of them. And then you would click on Save Changes. After you've created queues, over here on the left, you want to click on Members. This list of people are the people who are available to be my ACD queues. Now, if I click Manage Members, now I have two lists. The list on the left are people who are not in my queues, right? They're not available to be in my queues currently. The list on the right are my queue members. I can choose a person and then click on Add as Members, and it will move Peter over here to the right. Likewise, I can choose and send people back and make them, they're no longer available in queues. Once you're done with that, you click on the queue icon here. Let's get that back to standard. All right. So here you have my queue. I have Josh here who's logged in, has been for a long time, but he's red. That means he's not available. For my staff members who I've assigned to queues, right? So they would click on ACD queues, or they can use feature codes, but then click on Begin Session. Now I'm in the queue, but I'm still marked away. That first time logging in, click on the little phone icon here, and they should select a device. I usually recommend a VoIP phone of some type versus a cell phone, just for typically better call quality and stability. Then they click on the little phone icon again, and then click on where this says away, and then mark themselves as ready. Right? So now I'm green, ready to accept a call. If I'm being offered a call, my little bar here on the left turns light blue. If I'm on an inbound queue call, it will turn dark blue. If I'm on an external call, so someone called my extension number directly, or I made a call out to a customer, my bar will turn yellow. If I'm on wrap-up time, it turns gold. All right, dynamic caller ID. I should mention queues are an upgrade feature. So it's possible you may need to change your plan and then have an additional fee to add each queue. But again, that's something you would want to talk to our account services team about. Next up is dynamic caller ID. This is a plan-specific feature. This allows you to create rules to change the outbound caller ID for your VoIP phones. First one is this down here at the bottom here is 408. So you give it a name. You choose from this pull down a phone number on your account. And then you choose, in this case, the area code, right? So what I'm saying is whenever my staff members dial a 408 phone number from their VoIP phone, the system will automatically change their outbound caller ID to this phone number. All right, and then save changes. The other option you have is here where you can create a feature code. So now my staff members need to remember when they dial, hit *550, enter area code and phone number they're dialing out to. When they do that, the system will automatically change their phone number to this 323 phone number. All right, monitor, another plan-specific feature. This allows you to see the status of everyone on the account. Right, so green means they're available. Right, if they have a little expanded blue box, that means they're on a call. You can see who's available, who's busy. You can go by device. Over here on the left, part calls. If there's a part call, you'll see the person with the phone number and the parking spot number. For the active inbound calls, right, each one would have their own box, right? Blue, who they're speaking to, the phone numbers involved. Recording Manager will take you to one of two spots. By default, or if you have your standard call recording, you'll open up a new tab and take you to recordings.virtualpbx.com, ask you to log in with your dash login information. You will then see your call recordings there. You can play them back, you can delete them, etc. If you're making use of AWS storage and you have it set up properly, then when you click on the Recording Manager, it will instead take you to your AWS account where you can see your recordings. So you can play them back, delete them, etc. Webhooks is a plan-specific feature. You'd actually want to talk to our sales team about this. But this allows you to link your Dash account to other software. So if you go on our YouTube channel under videos, you can find our introduction to Zapier webinar, which is exactly making use of webhooks, right? You would create a new hook. This is programming, right? So if you're like me, not really a programming person, this might as well be in a different language. So be advised that this is a very advanced feature. But you would create your webhook and then on the other side, have it link to your Dash account. You can also go to developer.virtualpbx.com to see sample code and examples of what we have done in terms of linking Dash to other software. And then lastly, we have the user portal. Every user has their own individual user portal. If their voicemail box is set up to not delete, right, then they can come here and view their voicemails, right? They can play them back, they can download them, they can delete them themselves. Call history tab, they can change their call history, the date range here. And yeah, I don't think I've called recently on this account. But then you can go back further and see the call logs for this or for my specific calls. The fax tab only works for a user that has their own fax box, but then they can see their fax history. Contact list tab shows everything on the Dash account, right? Other users, groups, etc. This is not something your users can edit, right? This is only a view-only set of pages. The conference tab over here on the right is where your users would adjust their PIN numbers, right? So their moderator and participant PIN numbers here, and it's all, sorry, I apologize that it's cut off. But your staff member can choose to have people joined muted or deafened. They can play entry and exit tones. Over here on the left, when they're in a conference, they can invite other Dash users to a conference, block a conference, mute everybody, unmute everybody, end the conference call. Also, while in a conference, every moderator and participant has their own little box. So you can actually mute a specific person or even kick out a specific person. And then the Settings and Devices tab, this is where your users would enable call forwarding themselves, right? They put a little check mark here, put the +1 area code and phone number, and then click on Save. And that is everything. Gets back here to the dashboard. I haven't seen any questions, so I'm going to go ahead and end the stream. I thank you for your time today. We'll be back again next Tuesday, 10 a.m. Pacific. We do record these, so you can always come back here or get the link and send it to your colleagues if they need it. Thank you very much, and have a wonderful day.